Welcome back to Athletistry Ballet Evolution. My name is Shane Wuerthner. I'm your host, and today we're going to be having a discussion about the arts. So if you don't know, if you haven't listened to my story already, go back and listen to podcast number 1, and you will hear a lot about my background, where I came from, what my experience in the dance world is, if you will. And I've learned a lot over the years of not just being a dancer, but now transitioning into coaching, seeing how the business side of things works, seeing how people interact in the arts world as well, with my recent application for artistic director of Queensland Ballet, and seeing how that process all came together. It's been a very eye-opening, enlightening, if you will, experience that has also helped me to evolve in many ways, even within the past couple of months. So I put together a proposal, if you will, when I applied for the job, and there was not the request for that. I just thought, you know what, I have a lot of ideas, things that I think would help to improve the company. And it's neither here nor there. You know, I'm not upset that I didn't get the job, because whoever it goes to will be the right fit for the company. But there are just some things that I think need to be discussed around, you know, what's happening with the arts, not just in Australia, but around the world, in relation to ballet, where the ballet world is going, what's happening in dance, and how it's progressing. And one of those things that I've seen a lot of, and because there have been so many changes within the past couple of years with directors, you're seeing a lot of previous generations of directors retiring or moving on from their positions, and younger directors are coming in. And one of the things that I recognize that really hasn't been pushed forward as an idea in the dance world is this idea that the companies shouldn't be acknowledged for the director, who the director is, or even the repertoire that's being pushed forward, but actually who the dancers are in the company. Like, if, you know, for example, let's say you take any sports team that people are fans of, and you ask them, who's your favorite player? They're going to be able to tell you at the drop of a hat who that person is. But generally speaking, if you were to go out right now and say, you know, who are the top dancers in Queensland Ballet or Australian Ballet or San Francisco Ballet or New York City Ballet or ABT, unless you're a big fan of one of those companies, odds are most people don't know. So I think probably the first thing that I'm recognizing and that I'm seeing a lot of is that unless you are an influencer, there are a couple out there, and you have a large following already, most people don't know about you as being a professional ballet dancer. And I think this is probably something that has plagued ballet for a long time, but it wasn't always the case. You know, there was a time when Mikhail Baryshnikov or Rudolf Nureyev were household names. Everybody knew who they were. They were on television on the weekends, and Bell Telephone Hour would perform, and they would be presented to the masses, their work and their art. And they were celebrities in that regard. And so I feel like, first of all, we haven't developed stars in the dance world. We haven't developed people who are on the same level as the celebrities of sports or the celebrities of movies and television. And if they are out there, they're very few and far between. So the initial draw to the arts isn't there. And it's missing, especially in Australia. We don't have people who in the majority of the companies have come along and become those stars. So, you know, especially, we look at some of the smaller companies, and it's been all about the directors. It's been who's running the company, what repertoire are they bringing in, not about who's performing. Even cast lists aren't pushed and printed necessarily and put out, right? Like some of the companies here don't even put cast lists out on the night of the show. So people watch the performance and think, oh, that was nice, and they go home and they have no idea who danced. There's no connection with the artist. There's no connection with what was going on stage. Unless you are maybe a donor or you have some better connection with the company, it's just not happening. You're not seeing that. Now, the repertoire that's also being brought, as much as it's a homage potentially to that director's past or their experiences or the people that they know, there's not a lot of boundaries being pushed. And now this is really what I want to talk about, is how do we bring people into the arts? How do we take a new generation of individuals and as our audience, not just educate them about the past, but interest them in dance as a whole. Bring them into the art scene, bring them into a space where they are wanting to be a part of the ballet, to understand who the dancers are, what they go through, what their training is like, what their experience in their performance is like, how they develop as an artist. And then what they're putting on stage and what that meaning of it is, right? Like I was having a discussion the other day with one of my students and her mother, and I was explaining the importance of how in Crystal Fountain Fairy and Sleeping Beauty, how she runs her hand along her arms to present that beauty. And if you take the meaning of that, the historical meaning of that, and you bring it back to where a time where the color of the sleeves that you wore dictated the level of royalty that you were, the level of aristocracy that you had. Basically the Fountain Fairy is saying, hey, look, you're going to be the most beautiful, Aurora's going to be the most beautiful. I'm giving her that gift of beauty, and she's going to have the most beautiful sleeves. Like her arms will be so delicate and beautiful in the sleeves that adorn her. And that meaning is missed, right? Or even something like in Swan Lake, if you look at the White Swan pas de deux, and you look at the connection between the prince and the swan, when he is lifting her in that iconic element of the White Swan pas de deux, where she's doing sissons and he's lifting her into the air, the reality of that, like what we're trying to create as an image, is that she's flying away and he's pulling her back down to earth. So we have to create this illusion that she has these wings and she's flying up and he's bringing her back down to the ground. And so the meaning of a lot of this stuff is missing, but the audience doesn't know it either. And so there's been a disconnect, probably over the past 50 to 60 years, of our audience no longer understanding the ballet that's on stage. And so there's no interest anymore. There's no, I want to go and see how this performance is portrayed by this company. Or at least the interest has dwindled considerably. And so when the recent news articles have been coming out about funding not being given to certain companies, and the government should be doing more or whatever, it doesn't make sense. Why should the government be giving more to the arts if the arts are no longer interesting to the public? So I think the first step is education around the arts. That being said, we have to do things that are going to take ballet into the future. It can't just be a continual repetition of past historical ballets, right? We have to take what has been built as the foundation over the past 400 or 500 years, and then we have to move that forward, but not just by doing contemporary work, not just by saying, okay, we're just going to take this dance movement, throw a bunch of girls into point shoes and make them do really contemporary, abstract, avant-garde work to strange music or a Philip Glass copy, right? Like we have to do something that, in my opinion, creates an experience. And I think the experience has to transcend something for the audience. It has to take them to a level that they've never been to in their lives. It has to take them to a place that they've never been to. Yeah, it has to put them into an understanding of art that they've never been able to understand. And so my thought process around what is missing in the art world right now, what is missing in dance, is a connection with the audience, right? If you think about your favorite movies, like the biggest blockbusters that are out there right now, somehow it's larger than life. They're able to jump through the screen and grab your attention and pull you into that world and immerse you in that world. And still, when we go and watch a ballet, that fourth wall is so strong that it almost disconnects the audience from what's going on stage. And it looks beautiful, and there's movements that maybe people don't understand, but it's like watching sign language and in a movie when you don't understand sign language, and then seeing, okay, well, they're doing all these movements, but what does it mean? The pantomime has very little meaning to people these days. The storyline potentially is empty because we're trying to move so fast through the story to keep people's attention that we drop crucial elements of what should be there to actually tell the story properly. And so I think, as we look at what our opportunities are in art right now, what are the opportunities to grow and develop, we can create productions, first of all, that immerse our audience. Not from the moment they step into the theater, but before that, have from the moment they come to the theater, you know, even in the lead up into walking through the doors, a feeling of connection with whatever that performance is going to be, the story that is about to be told to them. And tell stories that are relevant to our current culture. Tell stories that are not just historical fairy tales from 150 to 200 years ago, but let's actually start to tell the stories from the last decades, from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, stuff that is still relevant to our zeitgeist, that will actually bring people through the door because they're interested to see that told through the medium of dance and connected with music that is created by up-and-coming composers that has a connection with the current understanding of musicality and runs through our veins on a daily basis. If you think about the music that you experienced as a teenager, that's going to draw you back in history. It's going to set you in time. You're going to have a connection with that music if you listen to it now. And so we need to find things that draw people into that space. Now, you know, this is something that I was listening to the Star Wars soundtrack the other day, just, you know, played by the London Symphony Orchestra. And as much as I don't know that a Star Wars ballet is the right way to go, I think the music was so impactful, right? Like, it has such power and such meaning. Like, we all know the soundtrack from Star Wars. So we have to find things that connect with our audience, and we have to tell stories that connect with our audience, and we have to do it in a way that brings them into the experience. People purchase experiences these days. They want to see and they want to be a part of an immersive experience. And so we have to find ways to take our artists and not just separate them from our audience, but connect them with the audience, connect them with the people that are sitting there watching them perform this incredible feat. I remember doing dance dialogues performances at Queensland Ballet when I was a member of the company. And often what they would do is they would do a coaching session where Lee would come on and he would coach us in a pas de deux. And we'd go to the function after the show, and I remember constantly being asked, you know, how do you do that? Like, I didn't realize that ballet was so difficult. I didn't understand that, you know, you're up there sweating bullets. You make it look so easy from a distance, but then I see how hard you're working. We don't make that connection as people who may not know what ballet is. You have to kind of show them what that is. And I think that experience for the audience was good, but it needs to be more. Like, I remember going to see performances of Cirque du Soleil, and from the moment you walk in the tent or into the theater, you're not just going to see another performance. It's like you've been transported into their world. It's an entirely immersive experience. The theater is designed in a specific way. Even the pre-show entertainment, the people that come into the theater and get the audience engaged with what's going on. And so we have to find, I think, ways to progress the medium. That it's not just the technique of dance. It's not just the beauty of what we put on stage. It's connecting the stories that we currently have in our culture, putting them onto our dancers, having the dancers use their training and their skills and their storytelling to be able to tell the story through the choreography of incredible artists, incredible choreographers, developing those choreographers, but then taking all of the new technology that we have and the puppetry that we're developing and the ability to stagecraft, put sets together that feel immersive and three-dimensional and bring us into it. You look at the Dome in Las Vegas now, it's one of the most immersive, incredible experiences that I've heard people have, that just, they go in there and they're surrounded by screens. Now, I'm not saying that we need to do that, but we have to have something that draws people in. Something that I also was thinking about, because fundraising is always an interesting topic. And I remember being as a part of San Francisco Ballet. And for those of you who've never been to the studios at San Francisco Ballet, when you walk into the building, they have this 2-story high wall that's a homage to the new building, that was built. I think it was for their 75th anniversary. I'm not 100% sure. But I remember walking in there and seeing this wall of name after name after name after name after name, like every major corporation, every person who had the means to contribute was named and listed on that wall. And it was massive, and it just showed the importance of the community coming together to make this art possible. Now, I don't see that in any other dance company that I've ever been to. And it was almost like San Francisco honored those people that had been a part of that development. And, you know, fundraising, like, it was always an interesting process in Vienna. We had, every year we had a major ball that would happen in the Opera House. And what they would do is they would take the seats out from the audience, and they would build the stage height all the way out across. And, you know, it was an opera house, so they had, you know, the straight up levels of seats still, but the orchestra seats were all taken out, and they'd build the stage out all the way to the end. And they'd have this massive ball, but they'd take the entire opera house and they would transform it into this experience of casinos, and there was a nightclub that they built in the basement where the technicians used to work, and they'd put special rooms for celebrities, and there were, you know, tables of food and all kinds of different experiences that you could enjoy. And it was a real night of incredible experience that I've never seen anywhere else. And, you know, I put this in my proposal when I applied for the artistic director position at QB, that we need to have in Australia a Met Ball of sorts, right? Like something that is going to not draw just in dancers and people who are a part of the world of dance, but superstars from all over the world who want to be a part of the future of dance, especially taking it into the next 10 years, where, you know, in 2032, the Olympics are coming to Brisbane. And we have to be able to take what we currently have as a very base level of dance and take it to a level where people are talking around the world about the innovation and the development and the progress that could potentially be coming to Brisbane. Now, I think, you know, whether it's federal funding or whether it's private funding, I think there are people out there who would want to get behind being at the forefront of art, of taking it to a level that it has never been before and progressing that. So I don't know that funding is the problem. I think that potentially what is missing right now is those who are willing to make risks, those who are willing to dream great, but then take even greater action to have an incredible outcome of excellence. These things are currently not where they should be, and there are dancers who are being sent overseas because they feel that the opportunity just doesn't lie here in Australia. Incredibly talented dancers who are light years above what I was when I was looking at getting a job back in my late teens. So, you know, there's an issue in Australia of exporting their artists and importing artists from overseas to come here, and it just doesn't make any sense. You know, if we had companies that were doing innovative things, who were you know, bringing in the funds to do those innovative things, they could then pay the dancers more, which would keep them here, which could expand the companies and develop new levels of work and new levels of progress. Now, I think, you know, that would also open up the doors to training being more widely progressed at a high level, because if you know that you're bringing in the best artists, eventually those artists will go on to teach and become ballet masters and open up schools. And they will have had international experience because they will have toured with their productions. They would have been overseas and they would have seen other companies. They would have guested and interacted with people from around the world, not just with their own company, but in a freelance and Gallup element as well. And so those dancers will then have more experience that they can take with them to pass on to the next generation. And they can work with the charitable organizations that are developing now to help bring dance to more people. And we will start to see a more diverse culture emerge as well, because the stories of those who may not have been told yet will start to be told, and we'll start to understand different ways of thinking about things, and we'll start to question, you know, do we really need to be you know, always putting on a full-length ballet? Maybe we have a year where we do full-length productions from the past, and then we have a year where we do full-length productions that are brand new, and then we bring in a year of smaller productions, or we pay homage to choreographers from the 20th century. But I think that the next stage, we need to have a rebirth of that development that happened in the late 19th century with Marius Petipa. You know, if you think of the hundreds of ballets that he choreographed, there are not many that are still performed, but he had a wealth of influence on a generation. And then we saw that happen again with George Balanchine, where he also choreographed hundreds of ballets and had a massive influence on a generation. It's time now for the next choreographer and the next visionary artistic director to come forward and find that immersive experience that is not just going to take dance as it was and re-perform the past, but push it towards the future, develop it as an art, develop it as a means of progressing storytelling, getting people to understand those stories on a visceral level, connecting them with the music, connecting the movement with the music, connecting them personally with the artists who are doing all of that beautiful work on the stage, and then presenting that in a way that is so immersive that an experience like it has never been had. And I think that's the future. And this is important, and I hope that you guys share this with everybody that you think, you know, they look at what's going on in the arts and they say, oh, there's something missing, there's something that's just not there. What can we do to take it forward? This is my dream, this is where I see it going. You know, I'm not in a position at the moment to make that happen, but potentially the conversation has to start, and I wanted to start that conversation. I want to take it to the next level. I want to have the discussions with the people who potentially can get it there. And then let's make this flourish, guys, because ballet is an art that I love. It is an art that has been with me since my childhood and will probably be with me until I die. And I want to see it grow in ways that it never was dreamed possible. And I want it to be the incredible art form that it can be. And I want it to welcome and embrace all cultures and bring them together and move forward in the most productive, beautiful, and transcendent way possible. Thanks for listening, guys. This has been Athletistry Ballet Evolution. See you on the next episode.